Hi, everybody. David Noor, back with my business partner, Jen Course, for another episode of our Intelligent Growth Live. Delighted you're here. We're live on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. And if you're not following the Noor Group accounts, that's where we're posting, and we'll repost it from our personal ones as well. Hello, Jen. I want to start there.
Hi, David. How are you?
Great, thanks. And we're kicking off a new chapter of, if you've followed and listened to previous episode, it's mostly been Jen and I kind of yin and yanging kind of conversation and discussions back and forth around this idea of intelligent and hopefully profitable growth. And we're elated to have a guest for the very first time, and we're going to have several others joining us, but you always need a pioneer.
You do.
And joining us as a pioneer is Mark Garrett Hayes. Hello, Mark.
Hi, David. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
It's great to have you. So, Jen, I'm going to let you kick us off.
Yeah. So, Mark, if you want to just introduce yourself for our audience and give a little background about who you are and what you've done.
Okay. So my name is Mark Garrett Hayes. I'm from Ireland, living these days in Barcelona. So much of the world has decamped following COVID. So I've done the same thing. I've packed up my wagon. I've moved here temporarily. I'm the author of a book called Sales Coaching Essentials. What I do primarily is work with tech sales teams around the world, me and my business partner and our team. And we train sales leaders how to become sales coaches. And that's it in a nutshell.
It's fantastic. And again, for our audience, the focus of this episode is really, as you may have read the title, creating a culture of sales coaching. And we, in conversations with Mark and Jen and I were talking through this, it is so much more than a transactional event. It's so much more than a one-on-one meeting. It really is all about, as we'll talk about, the DNA. It really is part of the fabric of, we believe, every organization to balance performing with learning. And as we'll go through the conversation with Mark, it's just a quick reminder for the audience. Inevitably, we have every client that is looking to explore, if they're not already moving from a CapEx intensive business to one of OpEx. And in this subscription economy, you have to, I said this to a CMO yesterday, you have to continuously earn the privilege to call those individuals customers. And you do that not as a transaction, but as an ongoing. So you probably have heard Jen and I talk about this customer lifecycle journey. We're so excited to partner with a company called Versalytics and bring our scorecard to the market in the next few weeks. But a big part of, and the reason we invited Mark was, you've seen the PwC annual CEO survey. You've certainly seen every CEO's concern in these continued uncertain times as a threat to their top line growth. And as we peel back the onion, and if we think about it and we look at what fuels an organization, whether they're expanding, integrating, optimizing, transforming their business, what really leads to consistent performance, execution, and results. And one of the attributes that we believe is particularly helpful is this idea of creating a culture of coaching. So, Mark, let me ask, why do you believe a culture of coaching in general is critical to organizations?
It draws on the innate resourcefulness of people. When we think that as a leader or manager we have all the answers, we're overlooking the resourcefulness of people. And I think that when we coach, we're more curious. We lean into people's skill set. We draw from them perhaps something they don't realize they have. And I think the world's changed, David. I think that following COVID, people have become more aware of their choices, and people want to be developed to grow and to evolve. And if we're not coaching them, they will go somewhere else where someone else will. Coaching is something which is transformative. Many times people say to me, what's the difference between coaching and training, which we may come to? Coaching is something which is conversational, it's transformational, and it's actually the job of every sales leader to help to evolve people, to highlight people's skills, and to get the best from people. And I think it's complicated in many people's minds. It's actually not. It comes down to having really powerful conversations and leading with curiosity. And we'll dip into that in the course of today's chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned that coaching is different than training. How would you say coaching is different than, like, what are the fundamental differences between coaching and mentoring?
Mentoring is very much about follow my path. Here's what I've done. Look at me. This is the way I came. I picked myself up by the bootstraps, and I overcame this obstacle and this impediment. So it's something I would use when I want someone to help me understand how they got to where they are and how I can follow them, emulate them, and be like them. Coaching is where someone puts me in a position where I get to decide what my outcome is. A bit like a game, you know. And what are my obstacles? What are my goals? What are my options? And which actions will I take? So in theory, a mentor would require someone to take on board their values, their direction, their lessons. A coach, in theory, could not know or may not have to know what someone's trying to do or understand what they've done, but they can ask questions to help someone to uncover their direction, their path, and their endpoint. They're very different.
And they're not mutually exclusive, right? You could
No,
obviously have a coach and a mentor.
Exactly. Yeah.
To raise the bar. So I'm curious. So we found through again the Sales Management Association that coaches aren't doing enough. Whether they don't do value coaching, there's not enough time, they don't know how to coach. Question of you here is, if you think about sales coaching, is it just for the sales reps, or could the broader revenue team benefit from likewise those insights, those interactions, that stewardship?
Yeah, I like the word stewardship. It's something which I think any leader in any leadership capacity should be using. So if you think of why someone's leading, it's not just to get jobs done or things done or results, it's to get results through people. So it's part of the skill set that every leader should have, whether they're in revenue ops, sales enablement, whether they're in field sales, inside sales. Anything which involves leadership requires you to lead people and to get the best from people. And I think coaching is something, I would say it's a superpower. In fact, I think it's a leader's superpower. It's something which is not just, I have never seen a job description for sales where coaching is not part of it. And yet it's the thing that's not done enough, quite frankly. And the stats prove that, the data backs that up.
And so with that, with coaching the entire team and with anybody who could benefit from it, are there different levels, would you say, of coaching for like a BDR rep that's like in the spring of their career versus somebody that's like an enterprise sales rep?
Yeah, I think you've also got to ask yourself where coaching will pay off the most, because someone is not necessarily coachable right away. If you think of Ken Blanchard's model of situational leadership, everyone has choices whether to direct, to manage people, to support people, to coach people. So I think everyone has to ask themselves, first of all, what is the thing that's needed here? It might be mentoring, to David's point. It might be more directing. It might be more training where people are given that skill set. And then we can use coaching to embed and to sustain that knowledge. So it is less a question of where someone is in their career. It's more a question of what they need at that particular point in time, given what they need to do and what they already have.
I want to build on that. So Mark, increasingly Jen and I are seeing, as she mentioned, BDRs, the 20-some-year-old in the spring of their career, just figuring out where the coffee is and learning the skills and really putting those early skills together. Then you've got a lot of times the commercial reps. Then you've got potentially, if you think of a B2B environment, kind of enterprise or, the very large kind of complex accounts and relationships. Then you've got a whole support infrastructure. So if you think of a tech company who's got sales engineers, or you've got industry or vertical specialist, insurance or financial services, your model, your approach, is it one-on-one individually coach that person around their skills, knowledges, maybe behaviors? Is it a team-based approach where, because in that account, and again, I keep thinking about the enterprise, I have to work with the SE, I need to work with marketing, I've got to work with my channel partners, I've got to work with product and engineering people. In essence, I'm the relationship quarterback in that account. and I need to be able to kind of coalesce, if you will, everybody to kind of go along this journey with me.
Mm-hmm.
So where have you seen, how have you seen, if you could share examples of, is it an individual focus? Is it a team-based approach? Is it a hybrid of the two?
It depends on the thing. So for example, coaching can be applied right now, let's say in a deal review, and that could be one-to-one or one-to-many. And I've done both. So I might, for example, work with someone's opportunity. For example, I've got 2 booked tomorrow, and they're both in Salesforce. Both reps are with a UK-based software company, and they're both using Medic or Medpic. And what we'll do is go into the anatomy of that opportunity, tell the story of it, understand where it is in the sales process, and we'll use coaching to help them to understand where the gaps are, assumptions are, risks are, and close them and get actions and agreements moving forward. That's one instance. Sometimes I might then do the same thing, but in a group environment where we would have, let's say, 4 or 5, 6 people, might be pre-sales, sometimes could be customer success, and we'll put something like a key deal up on the screen, and then we'll use the same approach, but this time I will be less of a coach, more of a facilitator, and I will use coaching as a, let's say, a conduit for the team to coach the person whose deal it is. So we'll put something up on the screen in Salesforce again, and then I will ask coaching questions this time at the people in the team to get them to ask questions of that rep whose deal it is, if that makes sense. So I could use coaching one-to-one quite powerfully, and that's where I'm doing deep dive. But I could also, to leverage efficiencies of scale, which is key, have a group session at the same time, and we put something up where someone agrees to have their deal spotlighted, and then we will use coaching to have questions coming from that rep's peers to help him, her get unstuck, come up with actions, and close.
I love it. So 2 data points, 2 friends. Tasha Urich does a lot around kind of executive self-awareness, and Scott Ettinger is also a good friend. And he did a survey of Fortune 500 companies for this HBR article. I was just floored of, 38% of sales leaders' subordinates kind of rank them in terms of their effectiveness, their impact, and yet almost like 80% rank themselves of kind of much higher level of efficiency, effectiveness. So we have a very high regard for ourselves when we,
of course we do,
talk about, of course we do, of how well things are going. My question of you is beyond the external assets, like you, like what we do. What can sales leaders or managers do inside the organization? Because I have always believed this has to become an in-house competency, right?
Yeah.
What can they do from a mindset, maybe a roadmap or skill sets to get started in creating a culture of sales coaching?
Okay, well, you think of, first of all, your table's interesting, the number of people who vastly overestimate their abilities and coaching behavior. It's not surprising. And there are a couple of reasons for that. But simplistically, one of the things people think they're doing is that they're finding time to coach people. And if you ask a rep, have you been coached recently? They'll say no. And if you ask the person who should be doing the coaching, they'll say yes. Why? Because perhaps there's a misunderstanding of what coaching is. I gave you 5 minutes of my time. I asked you some questions. That's it. That's not coaching. But I think it is coaching. So we have to actually define and agree what coaching is and the outcome we want to have from coaching. And I think the number one hindrance is that people aren't making time, quality time, to listen deeply, actively, lead with curiosity. And it's the most simple power that we all have, which is to use this, and then help that person get unstuck. It's not necessarily something which is only in the realm of sales. It can be applied to your loved ones as a partner. It can be applied with your kids. That's the advanced course, by the way. There are all kinds of ways in which we can use coaching. So it's kind of, I think it's a problem when people think they can come to work, switch on coaching, and then leave work and switch it off. It's something that's part of your DNA, which you said, David. It's something that you make part of your personality, your leadership style. It's not something you can just put a hat on and say, here, I'm coaching. I think when most people think of coaching, they think of someone with a baseball cap and a whistle, ranting at people from the sidelines. That's not coaching. Coaching is making time to listen to people deeply and asking them questions from a point of knowledge to help them find that knowledge and take actions. But it's about ownership. So if you want coaching to be cultural and something that isn't transactional, you have to lead. And therefore, it has to start with the people at the top. How can we form things like coaching circles? How can we regularly show we're vulnerable? I don't have the answers. I am seen to ask questions. I'm seen to look for answers from other people. I think people overcomplicate coaching. They read articles and books and think they've got to have all these kinds of tables and diagnostics. Well, you do to some degree, but actually, if you can make time, one person on one topic for one block of time and do that to start off, you'll know what coaching is and the power it has with people whom you serve and help. That's the place to start. Take away all the science and the BS. Just do it. All right.
Nice. So in a company that doesn't necessarily have coaching as part of their cultural DNA, if you will, and in the tough economy, where would you say they can help justify spending that time? Because everybody's trying to optimize and be efficient and get the most out of the reps with less. But how can we help them justify taking the time to listen more intentionally?
Well, if you don't get the most out of your reps with less, you're going to have less reps. It's as simple as that. Because you'll have people leaving who will go, my manager thinks they're coaching me. I'm not growing. I'm not evolving. I'm here 18 months. I haven't learned a thing. And no one can tell me where I should be next. So time is the most precious resource of all. And it's the thing with the most impact. If we value time with people, we value time with our customers. We've got to value time with our inner customers, who are our people, the people whom we hire and pay. And if you will, if we emulate that curiosity, it's the kind of behavior we want salespeople to use, right? We want salespeople to ask great questions. So therefore, we should be leading them by asking great questions. It makes sense. If you want salespeople to be curious and then be the right candidates to lead sales teams, you've got to highlight and evangelize this art of asking questions, listening, and doing so in a way that people actually get unstuck. I mean, I think of the number of people who've helped me. They're not people who've told me what to do. They're people who've helped me to discover what to do. And when that thing comes from me, I feel better about myself. I feel an increased sense of ownership, and I've evolved. And it's just from someone spending time with me. So you have to ask yourself as a leader, where do you want to spend time? If you're not spending time coaching people, helping people, you're going to be spending time in other ways, perhaps on talent acquisition because you didn't develop the people you had. And as the old good joke goes, there's nothing worse than coaching people and watching them leave. It's not coaching them, watching them stay.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And so, I mean, coaching them to be better leaders and find their answers themselves, creating that culture to have peer-to-peer coaching. Do you find that as valuable as leader to subordinate coaching?
I do. I think it's even more so, more important, because if you have true peer-to-peer, then you can say that's one of the hallmarks of coaching at a cultural level. It's not just something in a room between two people. It's something on the floor. It's something where we run QBRs, forecasting, deal reviews, pipeline reviews. Everything is done through coaching. And coaching is not what you call things, Jen, it's how you do things. And people have said to me, when in the week can I schedule a coaching session? And I say, you don't need to do that. Just find opportunities to coach within existing conversations and meetings.
Yeah, this is a model that I've seen and we've tried to implement in several clients, which is it's got to be a combination of recipes on the left so they feel supported. There's resources, there's motivation, there's advice. We certainly work on the skills and their development, but this isn't a quality control department. This isn't a George Foreman grill of set it and forget it. Yeah. It really is a daily opportunity. It really is a weekly kind of activity. It really is a monthly, the QBRs and kind of a monthly commitment to continue to and Mark, I'm also a big believer in, you want better answers, start asking better questions.
Absolutely, yes.
And it's very easy for us, and I keep reminding my kids that I didn't paint on the gray hair. It's very easy for us to always give the answers. I think since we all have kids, the light bulb goes off when you ask, and they kind of come up with the answer themselves. And I've seen this.
That's it.
With BDRs in the spring of their careers, and seasoned, hardened enterprise people in the fall of their careers, the light bulb going off of, I kind of know that, but I've forgotten that, or that's an interesting way, I haven't thought of that, or those all become invaluable in terms of how people interact, engage, and kind of work together on raising their own bar, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Have you found the same?
I have. I love being in a position to come up with my own next steps. When someone resists the temptation to give me their solution, now sometimes I want that because I really don't have the answer, okay? And I say to a colleague, look, Steve, can you help me? I'm stuck here. I don't know what to do. I've tried this. And someone could rush in with a solution, or they could say, okay, what have you tried so far? And I walk through those options with them. And which of those things do you think gave signs of working? And I respond. And then it begins to clarify itself in my head. And of those things right now, which is a priority for you? And as they're talking, I'm listening, coming up with answers myself. Because that thing comes from me, I'm more likely to own it and take action with it, right? Whereas if it comes from you, you're overlooking my ability to co-create, and coaching really is co-creation, collaboration, co-activation. And I feel like I'm in the passenger seat, and you're in the driving seat in my own car. Mm. I need you to help me to recognize that there's something I can't perhaps see the way through. And you help me to, as I call it, 3 U's: uncover, understand, unlock. And then the next time I can go, oh yeah, I did that. Right. That's right. That thing yeah, of course, I know how to do this. I know the answer, and I feel better about myself. And I think when people see people being coached like that, they think, hey man, this leader is someone who's got time for me and doesn't go around directing me and bossing me, but they're helping me to grow. They're evolving me. Mm. I want more of that. I've never come across anyone who said, I hate being asked questions that get me to think for myself and grow.
Not interested. I don't want to think for myself.
I don't want to grow.
I'm not interested.
I want to stagnate.
So that actually leads to a good follow-up question. Mm. Are there some attributes? Can you build on that? I guess I'm asking you to build on that, of attributes of great sales coaching you've done, sales coaches you've interacted with or you've seen, versus those that just are less effective, less impactful, less meh. You don't feel like you're getting anything from working with them.
I think humility, and this will sound like some kind of a list of angelic qualities, but simplistically, someone who's got patience to slow down so people can speed up. Someone who's got the humility to say, actually, you know what? There is a possibility this BDR knows something I haven't yet learned. It's possible from a previous job, previous experience. I'm going to listen, not at level 1, but level 2. Level 2 is what we call empathetic listening. Level 1 is where I see things through my filter, my prism, my judgment, my responses, my lessons. And I try and listen to you in the belief that there is something I can learn here. And I can then come to your level. And I think coaches believe that the people they're working with are equals. That's the thing. I think often when we have this old-fashioned belief of I'm the manager, I get to decide all things, then you become the sun in your own solar system. Everything revolves around you. When you're the coach, you are humble. You are someone who can restrain giving solutions. It's often tricky. It's really hard, actually, to be honest, really, really hard. You know something, you want to tell someone that thing. You also have patience and know that sometimes some people will move through the coaching cycle quicker than others. Fact. Some people get things, others don't. And it's recognizing that people are on different tracks, not a race. They're all on different tracks. It's a long list, David.
It's a fabulous list. For our audience, if you just joined us or if you're listening midway, you're listening to Mark Garrett Hayes. and we're discussing creating a culture of sales coaching. And this is one that I certainly wish I had much earlier in my career. Dad drove into us that life's too short to make all the mistakes yourself, learn from other people, and
True.
hopefully not repeat those. But
Yeah.
regrettably, a lot of people confuse coaching and managing. And again, I appreciated this slide as, whether instead of just assigning, I think Mark just summarizing a lot of what you've shared of, instead of just assigning tasks or just delegating or, evaluating someone's progress, those are all, valuable, responding to, firefighting on a daily basis. What I really appreciate is the teaching, the mentoring, the quality time you mentioned to really improve their performance, to really hopefully share some advice, some counsel, be that sounding board, engage them one-on-one to really raise the bar on what they do and how they do it. And I found when we do meet coaches, they become invaluable. They become really bolsters or enablers of our success.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the great sports people. Often the coaches that they have are people you would not necessarily recognize or know. They're in the background. And I think that is a fundamental difference between many coaches and leaders. Leaders often feel, if I describe myself as a leader, I've got to be the person ahead, not the person following up. I think a coach has a service attitude or a servant leader attitude and helps people to shine in their spotlight. And by helping them, that means having time for them, listening to them, and helping them to grow. And none of this is rocket science. If you think of the strength of great relationships, it's all of those things. It's having time for people, making time, and adjusting your style. And to your point, David, someone might show the signs of needing mentoring. You can switch gears. That's the nice thing about this. Someone might be stuck, and you could do a little bit of what's called autobiographical listening. You might provide a story, but I would say leaning into coaching as a primary strength, because you really want to help people to endow themselves with the skills to help them to grow. So next time they think for themselves, next time they get unstuck. And people develop resilience through coaching, not by being told what to do.
Absolutely agree. So you've worked with some really great companies, and do you have any examples where coaching has really elevated that team or that culture in a way that exponentially made them more impactful?
I can. So right now I'm working on a project with a media brand in the UK, and they're saying to me, one guy said to me, actually, he came out of one of the training sessions we had with a group of managers, and he said, his name is Peter, and he said there's one of his team working on a deal with the Swedish company, I think it's public sector, about 600K. And he said he was tired, she was tired, and he was about to go in and just sit down and just fix things and tell her what to do and do that. He just said, no, I'll hold back and I'll sit down. I'll ask questions. First of all, build that empathy bridge, connect with that person, figure out where they are, how they're feeling. And then, having checked in, I'll ask them some questions. And something like GROW is universally known. You start with reminding the person of the goal. So he did that. What's the goal here? And she explained. And then he could see the lights going on, just reminding her, because sometimes when we're in the thick of things, we forget what we're doing it for. And she realized, okay. And then he asked her some reality questions, what's holding you back? Why are you stuck? Everyone else has left the office. Why are you still here? That kind of thing. And then option questions, reminding her of the choices that she has. Could she do this today, this tomorrow, get in touch with this person, talk to someone in procurement, and so on. And then finally, which actions would she commit to? And 2 or 3 key things. And she felt better about the conversation and about the deal. And that was a really key. And he wrote to me and said, I get it. I used to do this. I stopped doing it. Why am I not doing this anymore?
Right. Common sense isn't often common practice. So Mark, again, there's certainly more than one ways of doing this. This is a process that we found we like, where there's, input sources from sales competency knowledge to sales diagnostics to metrics. You obviously get the reps and managers together. There's a diagnosis, a plan, series of actions you take, you review how those went, and then you're looking for results.
Mhm.
Is your approach similar? Is your approach different? How do you approach really effective sales coaching?
You have to talk to people and look at the data. You've got to gather data points, find out what they're currently using. Is there some element of coaching in place? Are they coaching to specific competencies? Which ones? Have they data points showing where, for example, there are problems in parts of the sales process? Understand the tools they're using, perhaps conversational intelligence tools, for example, Gong. So there's a whole bunch of things you've got to look at. It sometimes transpires coaching is not the thing to do. It could be premature, or coaching has been done before, but wasn't championed adequately and now has become something that's devalued. So it's very easy from a sales enablement perspective to go in and say that it's the answer is coaching. Here's where we'll do it. Here's how we'll do it. And this is what we'll get. You have to stand back and ask yourself, okay, what do we need to do first of all? Which data is going to tell the story? What's been used? Who's involved? What is the belief of the role coaching plays? Who's behind it? Has it been done before? Is anyone actually doing it as opposed to just talking about it on the slide? And often it's on the floor. I listen to conversations, I dial into forecast calls, and then I come back and go, it's not being done. It's something which is lip service.
Well,
Jen, I don't know if you paid Mark for that softball, but I was going to come to you with, he mentioned data, he mentioned Gong and some of the tech stack, he mentioned processes. Can you comment on either processes and or tech stack that you believe would be most conducive to an environment of sales coaching?
Absolutely. Before I do that, just jumping to what you said, Mark, about coaching being devalued and has it been done before? It goes back to the previous comment that you made about having a non-standardized definition of coaching. So some people may think that they're coaching when in fact they're actually mentoring or they're training. And so the company as a whole could say that they're coaching, but they're using that term as kind of a synonym to all the other things that they could be doing. So that's sometimes where you see that misalignment between has it been done before and was it effective? So that's from my own experience. Now, Nor, to answer your question about tech stack and what things can be useful, definitely having a single source of truth and sort of that customer 360-degree view of who they are, what they've engaged with, what conversations have they had, and what departments have they engaged is really important. And so having your central repository of that, generally it's Salesforce, and having everyone trained and enabled to leverage that tool effectively, knowing where to put that information, notes on the accounts, looking at their opportunities, making sure that those opportunities are not single-threaded. So that would be number one. Number two, to what Mark said, leveraging technologies like conversation recording, Gong, Chorus, Outreach even has something called Kaya that listens to your conversation and pulls out sentiment and keywords. And so it's listening for those sort of things and having those calls reviewed in sort of a one-on-one environment or in those QBRs and letting everyone kind of hear what went well, what didn't go well, asking good questions, hearing the whole conversation and being like, well, did you think of X? Or maybe you could have approached that with Y. And so it then helps everybody sort of grow and elevate from those various calls. And then the last thing I would say is documentation. I know it sounds really basic, but having a repeatable, scalable playbook for how things should be done, but allow that to be a living, breathing document or a living, breathing process is really going to be important as the company grows and scales, because having that baseline of this is how we're doing it and then making modifications as you learn more is more effective than letting everybody kind of Wild West and everybody do their own thing. Because then you do kind of have a standardization of this is what we're expecting everybody to deliver. And then as the variants come up, you can then decide, are we changing how we've always done it, or is what we're doing working?
Just a testament to the global reach of this intelligent growth. Zamig is joining us from Baku, Azerbaijan. Zamig, always good to see you, my friend. Delighted you're here. And I know we've got great listenership across the various platforms as well. Mark, switch gears for a second. Jen, thank you for that. And talk a little about the book. What's in the book? What should the audience kind of take away from the book? Again, the other challenge that I struggle with is, if you think about sports, if you think about entertainment, already successful people engage coaches to take them to a very different level. Regrettably, in business, in many cases, it's assumed that somebody's broken and they need a coach to fix them. I don't know about you. I don't want to work with somebody who's broken. Go work with a therapist. They'll probably do a much better job for you. I want to take already strong performers to a higher level. So tell the audience a little about the Sales Coaching Essentials.
Yeah, I wrote the book. I read lots of other books, first of all, on the subject of enablement and coaching. And I thought, without criticizing other people, which is always a dangerous thing on a podcast, but I just thought some of this is perhaps extraneous information. It's perhaps in the direction of almost pedagogical. It's talking about learning styles and so on. And whilst that's relevant, I think what I would want is just someone to say, give me this thing, turn to page X, and here's how to run a deal review. Here are a couple of questions to ask. Here are a couple of things to think about. Here's a bit on how to prep for that call or that conversation. And here's what you want to look for and why it's worth your while to use coaching in this particular context. And so I wrote that accordingly. When I first was putting my thoughts together, I was going for long, lonely walks by the river thinking, why is this not flowing? I just could not get this thing through my head. And finally, I realized, just put yourself in the shoes of the people whom you want to help. What's it like to be in the shoes of someone who does not yet believe that coaching is the way to go or how it works? And I thought, what's the simplest way to do this? Well, give them some analysis. For example, let me give you an example without boring everyone to death, but it's an example, very relevant. It's a coaching the deal review. What is the deal review? Why does it matter? What's in it for you to run it? Where is it a coaching opportunity? Here are a couple of elements of stories from practice, and here's how to develop a coaching plan. Here is what average looks like and what professional looks like. A couple of questions to ask yourself and so on. So I thought, what is the simplest way to write this in a way that people could lift this up, dip into it, make some notes, and apply it immediately? And I thought, that's the thing I want to write. So the book was shortlisted for the UK Business Book Awards this year, which I'm quite pleased about. And I asked people, why do they like it? And they said, because it's actionable. 1, 2, it's practical. And 3, I can remember what it says. I thought, thank you. That's what I want to hear.
Right.
Not where I'm trying to impress people with my credentials. I've written this in a way so the reader's the hero and the reader thinks of themselves in that situation. I'm dealing with a coachee or a person I'm coaching. I want to come across where I'm helping them to get unstuck. What can I do? How should I do it? And when should I do it? And that's that topic covered.
Love it. Love it. So you didn't write Harry Potter.
I was tempted to. No.
You wrote a practical, pragmatic approach to doing this. On that note, do you also believe that a certain amount of coaching up, I don't know if that's the right term or not, but do you believe the CEOs or the C-suite leadership, who particularly may not come from a sales or marketing background, let's say it's engineering or highly technical, or they're experts in industrial manufacturing, do they need to be also coached in terms of the needs or the flow, the motion, the impact, the growth opportunities of the sales culture?
I think coaching is something which transcends job roles. It's something which is part of your operating rhythm as a leader of any kind of people in any kind of function. Whether if you were, let's say, dealing with nursing graduates or physical therapists or technicians in a go-to-market team, whether it's pre-sales, customer success, whether it's sales ops, sales enablements, coaching is something that we do. It's not just what we call things. It's the way we lead. It's the way we inspire. It's the way we get the best from people, irrespective of role, title, experience. Everyone needs coaching. Not everyone's coachable, I have to say. I've found that to my cost. Some people are not coachable. And often, it's funny, it's axiomatic. The people who don't think they need coaching are often the people who actually need coaching the most. But everyone needs coaching, and it's something which, when it is throughout your organization, part of the culture, you attract talent because people come to you knowing that I will grow here. I will be able to make my own decisions, exercise my own options, and I will grow. And when you're not doing that, you're not going to attract right people.
Two data points. I've always believed the only loyalty any organization should expect is how are the people that are here feel about their personal and professional growth journey.
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
what am I doing to enable that growth? And if they're not growing, you should have no expectations that they'll stick around regardless of the economy. So I love the focus on growth. But I have to ask you, I know this comes as a shock to you, but I certainly have an opinion on what does and doesn't make a good coachable person. But I want to hear your comments. What are the attributes that you look for when someone is potentially not coachable? Because everybody's going to tell you, yes, I am, and yes, I will. But what are you looking for? That person is either unwilling, joking aside, or incapable of taking that coaching with the intent that it's shared to really raise the bar, to elevate in their deal details or in their med pick consistency or in their kind of whatever it is that you want them to do. What are the attributes you're looking for that person is not coachable?
Well, it's a great question. And it goes back to people. And I think often you're not hiring a who or a what, you're hiring a why. I think great salespeople are a why on legs. They have a reason to do what often is an extremely tough job, to prospect, to qualify, to negotiate, to propose, to close. It's a really tough job. And it's surprising how the people that I've experienced hiring are not often traditional hires. They have come for a variety of reasons. They have something to prove to themselves or others. They have this inner rocket fuel, and they're highly coachable because they have this reason to want to pick up, to evolve, to learn, to grow. I cannot make someone have a why. I can use coaching to find it, but I can't give someone. And that's why I often say you hire for attitude, you train for aptitude, you coach for altitude. So if you want great people, you got to put some trouble into finding what is the bio computer doing. So we hire ostensibly a piece of hardware, but coaching is the thing that unlocks the software. And that's the stuff between the ears.
Love it.
When I'm hiring people, go on.
I'm shameful about borrowing good ideas. I might have to use that one of coaching for altitude, because it really is true. They have to have this innate desire to learn and grow and continue to get better. It is just too difficult to just keep banging your head against the wall and expect different. Well, they're not returning my calls. Well, are you using the same, broken or outdated approach? Are you trying different things? Are you learning how to engage in influence, often without authority? If you're not doing those things, you should have no expectations of earning. And if you're not adding any value, earning that time, the gift of that time with that executive or any executive for that leader or a buyer for that matter. So if the why to learn and grow is not there, neither you, me, Jen, or anybody else going to make a difference.
And specifically not in sales, because it's just too tough a job to have someone who just sits there, crosses their arms and say, why isn't the magic lead machine working today? Get out and prospect. But when people are coached to altitude levels, they're able to think for themselves. They find that why, the resilience, they have that skill set, which has been invested in them through training, but coaching is what sustains it and gets something from it. So to my mind, it's madness to train people and not coach them. Training is where you give people information. Coaching is what achieves transformation. Unless you're coaching, you're not sustaining, you're not embedding, you're not growing people. And all that money goes to waste. So when you're looking for coachable people, just try giving someone feedback at interview time and see if they take that piece of feedback and cycle it into the next attempt at doing that thing. If your CV is an interview where you just lean into this, if your interview is a CV-based session, you're talking about retrospective. I think coaching unlocks perspective. So I might give someone something to do in interview time, and I'll then listen to see if they've adopted what I've said, taken on board that feedback, and change their approach. And often if they're not doing that, that's a sign they're not coachable. And that's a red flag for sure.
Have they listened,
Have they listened?
Adopted?
What's their attitude to feedback? Are they arrogant? Do they take it on board? Are they grateful for it? Because you're putting software into their hardware, and if they're not doing that, they're not coachable. You're going to get nowhere.
Are you also a believer of the action speaks far greater volume than what they tell you? Because I've sat in on QBRs, sure, and they'll nod, yes, 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 I'm doing that, or I'm working that deal, and you don't see it.
You don't see it, you don't hear it, you don't feel it. And when someone is listening deeply, they'll pick up on these cues that telling this person, they'll tell you they're not getting it, or they're just not taking it on board. I'm okay with people not getting it because I can try again and try in different ways. As a coach, I can figure out different ways to help that person to uncover what I need them to do. But if they're not willing to, that's a different matter of fact. And you've got to think of the implications for your company, for your team, if you've got people who aren't coachable, because they're not going to learn, they're going to stagnate, ruminate. And sometimes that affects the productivity and attitude in the team. I want a culture where everyone is going to learn something. Everyone is teachable, coachable, and able to coach. And by the way, coaching is a two-way street. I think if you think of what coachable means, it means ability to coach and to be coached. So great coaches are open to feedback as well. So at interview time, is someone willing to give you feedback? Are you big enough to ask for feedback? Are you vulnerable enough to take on board feedback? You know, coaches believe in equality and are willing to coach and be coached. It's a two-way street.
I love it. For our audience, Mark is available as a shrink. If you just need to just open up and share, hi, my name is David. I'm a sales manager and I'm awful at coaching. Mark will listen for a very nice hourly rate. We'll just kind of let you get it off your chest.
The number will appear on your screen now.
Joking aside, for our audience, if you joined us late, you missed a good one. Mark Garrett Hayes is the author of Sales Coaching Essentials, How to Transform Your Sales Team. And we've been talking about really creating and sustaining a culture of sales coaching. If you've joined us for any of the previous episode, you've heard Jen and I talk about this. We're incredibly proud to really focus on relationships as a strategic asset and relationships as an enabler of this idea of intelligent and profitable growth. So I lead a growth strategy practice where we put those relationships front and center, from speaking to salons to strategy visualization to coaching and development, and of course, M&A integration. Jen, share a little bit about the RevOps practice and your focus.
Yeah, so we focus on the processes, the capabilities, and the tech stack, and making sure that they run efficiently across the entire organization, trying to remove that friction between the various departments and having a seamless integration of both technology and people capabilities.
And what we've done together, if you haven't seen this work, that customer lifecycle journey, if you double click on it, we're going to go deeper into this amplified time to impact, where we can parachute in at any point or kind of help along that entire journey. As I mentioned earlier, really excited about our partnership with Versalytics to turn that into a scorecard. So not just qualitative data based on our experience and based on our work over the years, but we can also now come back quantitatively and not just descriptive, but in a prescriptive way of what do we need to do to really raise the bar, which also leads nicely into our BizOps practice. As Mark mentioned, from data analytics to data visualization, we've seen organizations along a data maturity continuum, if you will, and really helping them think through that in terms of their M&A integration, in terms of their data solutions. Versalytics has become a really good partner, and we're excited about that work. So again, Mark, on behalf of Jen and myself, I want to thank you for being our inaugural. This is a pivotal moment, my friend. Inaugural guest on Intelligent Growth. Greatly appreciated your comments, your insights. For our audience, we will have a link to Mark's website and his book in the NOR Forum community. Jen and I are there every day. We share ideas and perspectives. Come join us at norgroup.com/forum and learn more about Mark Garrett Hayes and his work around sales coaching. And of course, if there's anything we can do, please let us know as well. Thanks, everybody, and make it a great rest of the week. All the best. Bye-bye.